Welcome back to another episode 12 of the Opposition Podcast. I want to start by apologising for our alarm and a lot of technical issues tonight, and most of them were Rukshan's fault. He was working on Sri Lankan time.
This is not true, guys. Today, Avi was actually eating Indian food, so he said, I'm going to eat my meal and go live after that, so you better wait.
Are we getting some weird feedback on this thing tonight?
No. Are we? No, I don't think so. How's the sound? How does it sound, guys?
It sounds good.
Benji said it sounds good.
It's good he's screaming because he's got headphones in.
But look, thanks everyone for joining in again for another episode, and I think it's going to be an interesting night tonight. We've got a few things to talk about, or one topic to talk about?
There's one that I want to talk about.
There is one main
and
topic.
It's not my book, guys. You can relax.
Book is finished. Book tour is...
No, it's not finished.
It's not finished?
It's still alive and well. But
I want to put it to rest, but we did just come back from New Zealand.
There is feedback. I'm getting feedback that there is feedback.
There is feedback?
Is it... What's his name?
I bet.
Maybe shut him up. He talks too much.
There is a wine. It's one of them, but let's just see how we go.
Oh, that's better.
That's better?
Yeah. No, that's not better.
That's the way headphones here.
For the people messaging me to my phone, just keep telling me if there's feedback. But let's get into it. Technical issues tonight, thanks to Rukshan's disorganisation.
It's the constant feature of this show, the technical
I
issues.
can still hear that sound. Can you not hear it?
No, I think it's coming through your mic.
That's better.
That's better, yeah?
That's gone.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, but when you talk, you can hear it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's maybe the wireless mic.
Oh, then I'm getting another message. It's your mic. Why is my mic making noises?
I don't know. No, it looks fine. I think we just keep going. Some people can hear it, some people can't hear it.
All right, introduce the guest then, because this has been a total flop of a start.
Well, guys, thanks for joining on. We have two special guests today. First up, we have Nick Patterson joining us. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks for having us.
No, great to have you on here. And we also have Senator Ralph Babette, a frequent guest now. He's here more on our show than he's in Parliament House.
Someone's going to come on here and save the show. Someone's going to come and save the ratings. So here I am, boys. Here I am. Ready to do my part for the conservative movement in Australia.
Let's cut him off now. But Avi, you want to introduce Nick? You've got a bit more of a history with Nick, so...
Yes, this ringing is really annoying my ears, so you try to figure that out while I take control of the show. Nick Patterson. How do I describe you, Nick? I've got to know you fairly well over the last, what is it now? Probably 2.5, 3 years maybe? Mm-hmm. Yeah, when did I first...
So over 3 years now.
Over 3 years. When did I first meet you?
Keeping my gym open.
Oh, I covered that story when you're keeping your gym open. Mm-hmm. That's right. And since then, we've done many stories. Mm-hmm. We've covered a number of you, I think, because you're one of those...
I'm a troublemaker.
You're a pain in Victoria Police's ass that you just don't go away.
I think that's why we get along so well, Avi, is because we're both pains in the ass for the police.
Well, what I found out this week is because you actually spoke on the weekend at my Melbourne book launch, and I found out that not only... oh, that's better. Is my mic still... That sounds fixed. Rukshan, you're getting a pay rise. Can you still hear me, though?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're fine, man.
That's all that matters. So I found out that we share a lot in common over time.
We do.
But to the people that don't know you at home, who is Nick Patterson?
Oh, that's a hard one to explain. Like, how far do you want me to go? How much time do you want to spend?
We've because Rukshan started so late, we probably don't have as much as we would have.
Yeah, look, I'm a dad. I've got 5 children. We homeschool them. I don't want my children to become gay communists, so I homeschool them. He's laughing because he knows it's true. So, and we were homeschooling before the COVID thing. And we censored on here. Am I allowed to say? Yeah, okay.
You're allowed to say, yeah, just self-censor because it does go to Facebook and YouTube, and I think that was about as far as the line could be taken.
The line, okay. Well, at least we know where the line is. So we've been doing that with my children, and I ran a fight gym. I was a pro fighter. I had nearly 40 professional fights. I got a UFC contract in the end. I fought some name guys. I did very well. And then I gave it away because I believed it was part of the Roman circus. And I wanted to do something more meaningful. I got involved with the Liberal Party for a few years until I got kicked out for running a policy motion.
So you wanted to do something more meaningful and you joined the Liberal Party?
Yeah, no, a big mistake there.
Okay.
And obviously I run a gym and I run a ministry as well. I run the ministry through the gym because that's much more real. I get all these guys that have got problems, mental problems, and the drug problems, and it's a great way to sort of meet them where they're at. And then the government said you got to shut your gym down, and that was where I went, well, now that you're saying I've got to shut my gym down, I'm just definitely not going to shut my gym down. And then that's where I became a real political dissident. And obviously you've covered everything sort of after that.
Yeah, well, probably I guess what you're most known for, at least in rebel circles, is that one interaction with police at the protest.
Yep.
At the anti-lockdown protest when you were about, 10 metres from your car, you got to move on order. I know your story like I know any of my stories because I've covered it and I've told it so many times, but you would basically issued a move on order at the protest. You walk in a group and you're about 10 metres from your car. You're being followed the whole way. Mm-hmm. The body cam footage shows that they targeted specifically you. Police ran across the road as you guys arrived towards your car. They punched, what was his name? Jay. Jay fought back. You guys all
ran in to help my mate.
Ran in to help him. And what's interesting is Jay's charges were then eventually dropped.
And they paid costs.
And they paid costs for that final hearing. Meaning, so if they couldn't prosecute him, if they couldn't justify punching him in the face, how do they justify the rest that they did to you?
Yeah, and they've dropped the charges on a number of the other because there was 6 of us that got involved. I threw a couple of punches, out of defence, defending my friend, which you have a right to do. And interesting because you didn't know that we could fight back with police. I remember you said that. You said it in one of our reports
in the beginning, yeah. And I got legal advice on it, and I found out that the act actually includes defending yourself against rogue cops.
Yeah, exactly. So I was very aware of what was happening. Look, I knew that I was being targeted because I was targeted at my house. I had the police turn up to my house 5 times in the middle of the night, like 1 o'clock in the morning, 12:30.
But you were a bad criminal. You were breaking code.
Yeah, no, the biggest crime that you can commit, I've discovered, is to be a political dissident. During
COVID times, especially.
Yeah.
For sure.
So true.
So anyway, we had that scrap at the police. I was quite restrained. I didn't go all out. We weren't going to win. It was more just to help my mate and get to my friend. And then we got jumped by about 20 police officers. Capsicum was sprayed, bashed with the batons. I got my shoulder ripped out of its socket. And then they put me in jail for 29 days.
Well, for that you were out. You didn't go immediately.
No, 2 days later.
Yeah, because the next day I interviewed you. You had your arm in a sling. You were and none of that stopped you from going out to protest.
No, I did an all night of that. So that interaction happened. I didn't do a statement with the police because I had to go straight to the emergency to get my shoulder relocated. My arm was hanging out of its socket. It was bad. It was
I've had
bad
that.
injury.
Yeah.
And so they had to pop my shoulder back in, and then I rang my mate up. He picked me up. We went to Paul Furlong's church to find out how we're gonna run his church event because they were shutting all the churches down, and we were just gonna defy it and go, no, we're gonna go to church. We're gonna go to church. We're gonna be bad guys.
You rebel.
Real rebels. We're gonna go to church.
You went to church.
And you did
My
church.
God.
Jeez.
So anyway, we went to church. That's right. We did that.
Well, the church was at Fountain Gate Shopping
Well,
Centre.
we had to do it there. We couldn't.
Yeah, because they blocked off. I remember I came early because it's out in Narry.
Yeah.
And the cop shop right there. His church is actually not far from the police
Yeah, but
station.
he got arrested that night.
Yeah.
Before the same day that I got assaulted, and we all got assaulted by the police. That night, Paul Furlong got taken to jail as well. So that's the first time that I know of in the history of this country that a church pastor has been jailed for opening their church.
Mm.
And then the next day, the police came over, to about 9 of them, and said, we're just taking you in to do an interview. And 29 days later, I got out with bail conditions that restricted my ability to speak on any public platform about any social media, anyone else's social media, any website, anything to do with the police, the government, state or federal, the law, state or federal, the COVID pandemic, or the chief health officer's directions. But this is the kicker. They forgot to give me those false incitement charges that they gave every other political dissident that they did the same thing to. They must have stuffed up there. So then all I had to do was go to court again and say, hey, these are ridiculous conditions. They don't reflect the alleged offences, which didn't even happen anyway. And the magistrate said, yeah, you were correct. And they removed all of those conditions. So they stuffed up. They should have given me the false incitement charges like they did with everyone else, so they could at least keep those conditions.
Those bail
on
conditions.
the bail.
Yeah, because that's essentially what they did. That's how they silenced anyone that was kind of organising protests.
I think what I found different about you, Nick, was I remember there was a particular protest I saw you at, which I think the Flagstaff Gardens. Were we talking about the Flagstaff Gardens? Yeah. And that's the day you kind of spoke up when you were challenged by a police member, or you stood your ground and kind of laid out the law. And that video kind of went viral, and I often see it here and there. And some people, I guess, for lack of a better description, make fun of you sometimes for the way that you stood up for yourself in terms of laying out your interpretation of the law. Yep. What's it like, I guess, for ordinary people? There's a lot of people that out there that'll, stand face to face with a policeman and tell them that this is the law.
Well, the thing is, what I said was true. You find a lawyer or a barrister that would disagree with what I said. I quoted the case law word for word as it's written in the cases. The sections of the Act that I and the cases are that is literally what it says. I even had a chat with one of your lawyer mates, and she agreed that what I said was correct as well. There's no issue there. I think a lot of people, they have this false, deluded idea that police are never wrong. Right, and obviously, that's where we come to a head, because they are wrong, and we proved that they were wrong, because in the end they had to let us go, and they said, we're going to give you 5-10 minutes to leave the area, or else you'll be arrested. Now, if they could have arrested me, they would have arrested me, but I laid it out really clearly. I don't have to speak to you unless I'm under arrest. They go, well, we believe you're committing an offence. So I said, okay, what's your belief based on? And they go, well, you just have to identify yourself. And I just quoted George versus Rocket. It's the 8th paragraph in there. And it's a High Court case. When a statute prescribes that there must be reasonable grounds for a state of mind, including suspicion and belief, it requires the existence of facts which are sufficient to induce that state of mind in a reasonable person. I'm a reasonable person. Where's the facts you're relying upon to establish your belief? Well, he didn't have any. He wanted me to engage with him and give him some facts. Well, I don't have to do that, because the Supreme Court in DPP versus Hamilton says I'm under no obligation to speak to the police unless I'm under arrest, or they have grounds to suspect or believe that I'm about to commit an offence or have committed an offence, and they had none of it. So at the end, and that's why they let me go. But then we've got the audio from the other squad, the Port squad and the CERT squad, where they're saying, that's Nick Patterson over there. This is off their own body camera footage too. And it's amazing, because 2.5 years later, they're still trying to prosecute me. And they know full well, I've done nothing, but I just think they don't know what to do with me, because I've publicly said I'm not going to accept a non-disclosure agreement payout. No, I'm going after.
Well, they've pretty much dropped the cases against almost everyone in your group.
Yeah, that's right. But they're hanging on to me, and I think that they just wanted to get. Oh, this is another one. I was given a $50,000 surety to get out on bail, right? So I had to put $50,000 up, which I didn't have that. My wife. She's got a small property, some land, so she put that up for the surety. When I told the inmates in jail, they said, there's no way that your story's true if you're getting a $50,000. And I said, I'll show you the brief of evidence. And I showed them, and they're like, this doesn't make sense. I said, yeah, it does. I'm a political dissident. That's the real crime. That's the biggest crime. And you've got to understand that the power that these, and I always say this, and I sound like a broken record, evil people get their power from their ability to perpetuate a lie. Okay, they exist in that lie. The lie is what they if they can convince you of the lie, out of that lie is where they generate the power to create, whatever narrative they want, that they then create more power out of. There's an emergency, we need all these powers. Anyone that speaks out against that lie and speaks the truth, because it's a war on the truth, breaks down the narrative. That's their power base. So you're attacking their power. When you attack their power, they have to go after you, or they lose their power. And that's why they deplatform people.
Perfect segue into what we want to talk about tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this has been one of the, biggest topics, at least for us two, because we
in our little echo chamber.
In our echo chamber, because I have a very kind of personal interest in this. And of course, Avi Yemini has a very big interest in this, because he was somewhat involved in this through his defamation proceedings against RMIT University. And Senator Babette's here as well from his experience in Parliament. He might have some experience on this matter as well. And I think all of us, probably even you, Nick, we have been targeted by these so-called
I think Nick's been kicked off every platform.
He's been kicked off.
Everything.
Yeah. That's why you can just see Nick's Telegram.
Although he's going to join Twitter, he says.
I think I'm going to have a crack on it.
Yeah, he's going to have a crack of X.
It's X now, boys.
X.
It's
join
X-rated. Are you
Join
good
X
with
now.
that as a good Christian?
Not really.
But that is, what I'm talking about is RMIT Fact Lab here in Australia.
But now disgraced.
Now disgraced RMIT Fact Lab, unaccredited, disgraced. They have been...
They've been fact-checked.
They've been fact-checked by the people of Australia, by Sky News,
even
by
Facebook,
by us, by Rebel News, by Facebook.
Even Facebook.
How bad do you have to be as a Facebook fact-checker for Facebook to turn around and suspend you?
I'll take that beanie off. It's a bit hot in here because you keep...
That is RMIT Fact Lab. But I'd love to get your thoughts, Senator Babette, on all this.
It's nuts. It's nuts. I mean, I'm glad it's happened. I mean, these guys, look, it's not even a fact check, is it? Let's be honest. It's an opinion. That's what it is. So these people are out there spewing their opinions and pretending it's a fact check. I mean, hopefully this is one of the first dominoes to fall, and I think they all need to fall. I think the whole fact checking industry, which is what it is, it's an industry. It needs to go. It absolutely needs to go. Or there needs to be, a true, accountable, genuine group that does genuine fact checking. Because what we've seen happen so far is we've seen opinion checks. If I had called it opinion checks, it'd be fine. I'd be fine with it. But
no one would actually care if they had their fact check website and they said whatever and they had their opinions. The problem is that they wield power because they get to shut you down off social media platforms, and this disinformation bill will make it even worse. But the idea that they can fact check, they're allowed opinions just as much as you can. You can fact check. I can create an article that says you fact check. The funny thing is, RMIT Fact Lab was not gaining many. It wasn't getting much traction. There was no traffic on their website.
Well, I don't think it's about the traffic and the
No,
traction.
it's about them being able to shut you down on Facebook and put the warning and give you strikes and kick you off. That's what it's about.
And they make it look like they're this official organisation, this official group, and they
really
have some legitimacy.
Private-funded corporations just getting involved and shutting you up.
Well,
there's no officialness in it at all.
Here's one. Like I remember when we took thousands of people to the police headquarters. We ran a rally. And it wasn't during a lockdown. It was facilitated by the police. And actually, Rukshan did a little interview with me when I went in to notice the police. And I was just noticing the police that the Victoria Police Act says that you have the duties and powers of a constable at common law, and that the definition of that in the Australian legal dictionaries, with the case law, which and that was all quoted in there, says that you cannot be directed by the government. That's a conflict of interest. It shows a bias. You're meant to be answerable to the law and the law only. And if you're taking directions from the government, that shows an issue. That's a real conflict of interest, because you're not going to then, arrest government officials who are giving you your marching orders. So I gave them this notice, and it was an empowering event, because you could hear the people saying, you serve us, but it was thousands of people there. You could hear it. The building was shaking. The next day, Instagram and Facebook, both of them said, you have been permanently disabled. You cannot appeal this decision. And I wasn't given any reason for it either.
Yeah, no, it's like, in a way, it's like for ordinary people, let's say activists or anyone really, they wield so much massive power to shut you down. Like, I struggle on Facebook ever since these people have come after me to kind of have a platform there. And I have to be creative in the way that I do stories and stuff, because they will get you on the most random technicalities, mundane things, or missing context. That's the favorite one.
Could be that you've it's written in the wrong font.
Yeah.
Well, there's a comma there.
The timeline also doesn't matter. Like, the case that we took them for was the fact that we remember when they Dean Lee had the bright idea to desecrate the shrine by lighting it up in LGBT, the pride colours. And then when there was massive backlash from within the veteran community, he walked it back, but he couldn't just walk it back without saying, "Oh crap, I got it wrong." So he had to blame somebody. And what did he do? He claimed that there were death threats. There were threats against the safety. And I just looked at it and go, okay, show us the threats, because 6 months earlier he also claimed that the anti-lockdown guys were urinating on the shrine, when with all the live cameras, everybody that was there, no one has any footage of somebody actually doing that. The only living being that urinated on the shrine that there's evidence of was the police horses. So with all that, I didn't believe him, and I went down. Rukshan was there, and I went down and I spoke to the top, what are they called? The PSOs, the top Victorian police in charge of security of the shrine. And he straight up on camera, well, he didn't know it was rolling, but on camera he goes, actually, no, it's not death threats. It's just hate mail. People angry, not using the nicest language, fine. But there's a big difference between that and death threats.
It was fantastic. You got that too.
Do you remember?
You could break the narrative down.
Remember that. And then we also followed up with police media, who said there was no official report.
Yeah.
And then we get fact-checked. And again, remember, Facebook's whole fact-checking partnership is meant to... The idea of it is to stop medical misinformation, they say, and electoral fraud, electoral fraud, and anything that can cause real-world harm. So they fact checked me, and their evidence that they provided was Dean Lee said. That was in the fact check. They were saying, well, the CEO and his staff all say there was threats. And I was like, okay, and we went to court, and we had to withdraw it at the end because when we subpoenaed everything, we got everything, and there was nothing really a substantial threat in writing anywhere. Mm-hmm. It was there was some harsh comments and things that, like, you know. There was nothing. There was no.
But it's the normal stuff, the stuff you'd expect
on the internet. Mate. If those are threats, then my every single post I do has 100 threats according to that. But they knew that wasn't gonna suffice. So what they did was in the 11th hour, they came up with this phone call that the threat was done verbally over the phone. So now what? There was no way for us to prove that the threat didn't happen.
I was going to say, at least if you're going to be a liar, I'm not saying that they're liars, I'm just saying, in my opinion, that they are. Yeah. But if you're going to be a liar, at least be good at it and get one of your mates to do the death threat.
Yeah, but
you know?
But what I said, because I emailed RMIT Fact Lab during this time as well, because they pinged my page as well on this thing, and I said to them, this is a person in authority, this Dean Lean guy, and he said one thing. There's no obligation on my part without him providing evidence of said thing to believe him.
Exactly.
As a journalist, I am there to look at two different sides. What I saw you do the interview with the PSO or whatever, and he said there's no threat. So we have two people there. One person's like an official member, a politician, and another person's a person in law enforcement. So who do you believe? As a journalist, we're like, well, this guy said that there wasn't. It's the same as if someone went and said it, but I'm sure there's people all the time online saying that what you're claiming is not correct. You can't then just turn around and say, actually, it's correct. RMIT will do a fact check saying that I said it's correct.
It's possible that the PSO did you solid too, because they're people too.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. All that is possible, but RMIT...
When you watch the video, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, but RMIT to come in during that time and say, we're going to get this story for whatever reason. Like, it was the most mundane story, but we're going to go after this.
Where was the real world harm? Even if I made it up, even if I completely made it up, which I didn't because I have on camera. So why would you fact check it if it wasn't politically motivated? If you just weren't trying to shut up the other side?
Well, it's obvious to your viewers and all of us.
Anybody that watches it, it was pretty obvious and pretty
How
ridiculous.
much do they get paid for each fact check?
800 US.
800 US they
So
get
it's in their
paid.
interest to do as many fact checks as possible.
Yeah.
Fact checks as
I mean,
possible.
there's that element of it. What we found out, of course, since this time, RMIT Fact Lab have gone and updated their website. So they're updating their website.
This is Rukshan. Rukshan's been investigating.
If RMIT is watching this, every day I check your website and I take it's called a web archive. You can archive the page. So every day, guys, at RMIT,
He's got no life. You guys are done.
I'm literally just watching the RMIT Fact Lab page and I'm archiving it because they keep making stealth edits, changing their story. So now they've added the fact that they're in a partnership with Meta, because that was all a secret. And these organizations are meant to be transparent. They talk about transparency. They're in concert with ABC, a government, government
it's
organization.
It's a conflict of interest too, especially when there's
conflict of interest.
$800 a fact check.
Of course, that should have always been transparent.
You can't have integrity when you're paying that kind of money for fact checks.
Not only that,
it's incentivized by money.
$800 per fact check, but it's almost always done by lefty organizations.
No oversight. Yeah,
it's crazy. So obviously, you don't have to be a genius to work out that they're going to opinion check or fact check the other side that they don't agree with.
Exactly, that's the whole thing. But if you look at RMIT Fact Lab, and you'll find there's no fact checks against the left.
Yeah.
It's all against what they perceive the right.
It's all activist-run nonsense. But I thought the Meta thing was the biggest revelation. But they snuck into their donation page because this organization is also taking donations. So they're getting money from Facebook. They're taking donations from the public. They're getting these philanthropic grants. They're working with a government-funded entity in ABC. But they put in there sneakily that they're also getting funding grants from the International Fact-Checking Network.
Which is funded by?
Which is funded by such organizations as the Melinda and Gates Foundation and organizations.
I wonder why they hated our Davos reporting.
Multiple, I guess, politically aligned, activist aligned organizations. They're in concert with them through the Point Net Institute that they're a part of.
I'm not
So-
surprised though. Like that. Just
I'm
Yeah,
not
it's not
surprised, but the
surprising,
fact that
but-
it's being disclosed now very secretly, and the biggest problem that I have is the people that are giving them the accreditation are also giving them grants. So if you've given someone money as a grant, why would you go ahead and discredit them when you're giving them the accreditation as well?
Absolutely. That's when he says a conflict of interest.
That's what it is.
Massive conflict of interest.
I just want to
mean,
give a shout out to Sushi. What's her name?
Sushi Das.
Sushi Das. Who
Well,
was,
they've been wiping. You tell that story.
Yeah, so Sushi Das. Why don't you put her pretty face on the screen?
I'll find it.
I think she'd like that. Maybe bring up her Twitter, so we can actually read what she calls herself. And the question is it even? We might have to fact check her bio now. Hold on, we should do a live fact check now. Here, go to her. Hold on, let's get this. I think this might be worth the wait. Because we can fact check her right now here, live on the Opposition podcast. All right, can you bring that up?
Yeah, I got her up. I got her profile up. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, put it on the screen.
Put on the share screen, Benji, number 7.
Number 7, Benji. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what do we got here? Sushi Das. Is she one of yours?
One of mine, how?
One of yours? No, like Sri Lankan? Did you think I was going to ask if she's a man?
That's a cool haircut.
No, she's Indian.
Oh, she's Indian. Whatever, same thing. So she's a journalist. She's chief of staff, RMIT, ABC fact check. Booyah, fake news. She's been pulled.
That's right.
From their website. They've pulled. So since this all happened, they've pulled her from their website. So she's the assistant director of RMIT Fact Lab. And she's the one that, what was it, that they say created the process for fact checking.
But if you go to this page now, they've removed her.
They've removed her.
She created it, and then they've kicked her out.
No, so there's two things. It's a bit confusing because you got RMIT Fact Lab,
Yeah.
and then you got ABC, RMIT ABC Fact Check. So RMIT ABC Fact Check is this kind of joint thing between ABC and RMIT. Mind you, they're both kind of distancing each other on the website at the moment, so it's a bit confusing what's going on. Because I think that ABC's a bit worried that they're going to get downgraded too.
Yeah.
They're on the verge because, and then she's sharing articles from Cam Wilson, from Crikey. That's when you know you're getting desperate in this industry, when you're relying on Cam Wilson.
You've made it. We've made it.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about this Crikey article? It says Global Fact Checker defends RMIT Fact Lab against Meta. But the Global Fact Checker is the people that hadn't certified the RMIT to begin with.
And they still haven't.
No, it's... and
His whole argument is, well, everybody else is breaking the law.
Why can't we?
Yeah. I think he's right. That's why I gave him kudos for perfect journalism, because I think that's good on him. He's pointed out that they're all breaking. They should all get kicked off.
But you know what I noticed as well, Avi? They've removed the woman from the leadership group here. They've removed the woman of color, ABC. Because the white blokes here, the white blokes and the white women, they seem to be fine.
That's offensive. You should apply for a job. They need a quota.
I thought ABC would get rid of everyone else and keep her.
You should identify as a woman and you'll get the job.
But while we have Senator Babette here, I wanted to ask you, Senator, is there scope for something like the ABC? Because it is, accountable to the government. Is there scope? Because we need to find out what ABC's relationship is in all of this. If they're getting funding from Meta, if they have a confidential agreement, because they haven't said anything about this. They've been very quiet about this.
I'm no fan of the ABC. I'm no fan of the ABC. You know what? I actually gave a rousing speech about the ABC in the Senate, last parliamentary sitting. It was pretty fiery. I got told off, I think, 3 or 4 times by the president at the time. So, in my opinion, this is just you know what? The ABC, they got to be defunded. Cut right back. They are so woke. It is terrible. Terrible. There's probably the wokest media organisation in the country, I reckon, the ABC.
Oh, have you seen Rukshan's podcast he does in the day? It's like a Sky News
ABC,
day.
Right? It's It's taxpayer funded. If you're taxpayer funded, you've got to be right down the middle, fair and balanced, equal to both sides.
Yeah, but how do they
sides.
police that? That's the problem, isn't it? And I want to ask the question: what's behind the woke push? Like, why? And especially in Western countries, like, why is there this push to make everything woke? What do you think?
Well, it's coming through the institutions. Like, if you look at the funding for that IFCN network,
but why is what I want to.
Well,
what do you reckon the reason for it is?
All right. So once a year in the snowy hills of Davos.
Yes.
This is a fairy tale.
Yep.
It's a very pretty place.
Yeah,
Me and Rukshan have been there. And they set agendas. And those agendas seem to come perfectly in time and in sync for all the government, for all the young global leaders, as they like to call them.
Yep.
What do they say? We penetrated the cabinet.
The cabinets. And they have. They actually have.
Why do you think they're pushing this kind of madness on
well, this kind of
people's
madness,
minds?
some of this type of madness can weaken societies.
100%.
It can
No,
weaken
I agree.
societies.
I
And
already have what I think the answer is.
Yeah.
I just want to
And
know
I
what you
feel
guys
like-
think.
We're waiting to hear Nick's
I feel
conspiracy.
my take is, Nick, a lot of this is to create division in community.
Yeah.
At some level. It makes us distracted in a way on these topics, unfortunately. But we have to focus on them as well, because if you don't focus on them, a lot of people say that a lot of this is distractions, and they say, Rukshan, why are you talking about this, or why are you guys focusing on this? Because if you don't focus on this, the side that is doing this takes it even further.
Of course.
So
I agree.
there has to be an element of your focus going to it. But I think most of it is to create this type of division, because in these kind of petty arguments that we're having amongst ourselves and arguing about fact checkers and all this kind of stuff, while we're doing all of this, there is an element that these other people are getting away with all sorts of other stuff.
I agree with you, and I could go one step further. I think it's targeted at children specifically, more so than anything else. I think they want to weaken the children, because the principles of integrity, respect, honor, all these things, okay, if your mind's filled with garbage, you're not going to develop those characteristics and those principles. And they don't want an empowered society. They want a weak society. They want weak people so that they can control them.
They specifically want weak men as well. You know, men are the leaders of society, whether you like it or not. Society is led by males. And when you have a weakened male population, like we have all around us, all these latte-sipping woke activist freaks, it makes it so much easier for the people at the top to control society. Military-aged men is what builds society. That's what builds society.
I'm waiting for
they want to destroy it.
I'm waiting for the legislation to come out or be proposed to tax people that have men that have too much testosterone.
I wouldn't be
surprised.
surprised.
That's coming.
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised. You know, then these people who run the world, they know exactly how it works. Obviously, they run the world, and they need to destroy masculinity. They absolutely do, and you see it everywhere. You see it everywhere. You know, you've got things like participation trophies now. You've got things like a toxic masculinity.
Hey, relax. Those were the only medals I ever got.
You got.
He wants to take away my medal.
It's all by design. It's not an accident. It is not an accident. A weak society, like I've said before many times, is easier to control, and that's what they want. They want control. At the end of the day,
And I think the whole narrative that we've just gone through, and I'll be careful what I say, proved that there was a massive lack of integrity. And if you think of what integrity is, it's the internal structure of who you are doesn't change if the outside, if the external forces try to get you to change. Just like the integrity of a building, if the wind blows, the earth shakes, if it's got good integrity, it stays standing. So many people, the slightest thing, of discomfort, I'm just going to go and comply. And that showed that we didn't have integrity.
It was, you know what? I think back to the days, and I think people watching this at home, I think most people watching this at home were people that probably didn't comply, but like for people that did, surely you sit back and you think, what a gutless, how gutless was I? How like, I would have thought, when you imagine, especially probably as kids, you think, if I get attacked, I'm going to do this, I'm going to, I'm going to stand up for myself. And then it happens and you're like, you just crap your pants and you freeze.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a fine line there, though, because I'll be upfront. At the start, I was a bit.
Yeah, but
I think the thing is with what you're saying, once you kind of know and you know
that's
something.
My question.
Yeah.
Were you that? You were that. So I was like that in the beginning because I believed we didn't know anything about the virus for the first a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right? So that's fine. I'm talking about anyone after
When
the
you figured
first
it out,
month.
after you figured it out.
After the
And then did
data
nothing,
started
yeah.
rolling in and you knew that, hold on, something's not adding up.
And you complied anyway.
And you just complied. You didn't comply. You know what? I don't even blame people that were scared of the virus.
It was a huge fear campaign.
But
for sure.
the people I'm talking about are those that fell for it and then mocked everyone else, but also those that realized what was going on, but was too scared to push back.
Well, that shows that that's the same thing. The lack of, the
Goes back to
peer
what you were saying
pressure.
earlier.
It's the lack of integrity. I remember when it first happened. Straight off the bat, I publicly said I'm not going to shut my gym down.
Yeah, you were the craziest. You were there before all
And
of
that's
us.
why we got millions of
I think
views
you
on-
announced you're breaking COVID restrictions before COVID even was announced.
But I think in society, there's always a group of people like yourself,
Nick.
Nick.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're crazy. I'm just
I
saying
am.
there's a group of people who have
You're nuts.
who have principles.
And that's what the elite is scared of, guys.
Yeah.
Like that.
Years.
You have that, and then there's like people like myself who see bad things happening to people like you, and I can see the difference between what is right and wrong, and I can say, actually, I think bad things are happening to this person, and I'm happy to now be on side with them and defend their basic rights that they should have. Like
And
that's where I
and
was,
that's
because
so-
I didn't agree with a lot of the things at
Yeah.
the start that people like you were saying and stuff. And there's videos of me doing that and all this kind of stuff. People bring it up, and it wasn't because I thought you were wrong or whatever. I had not yet seen the levels that our government would go to against people to diminish their rights in such situations. Once they started attacking those fundamental rights, for me, it was no longer about what it was COVID or whatever. I didn't care. It was about they can't do that because we should protect
Because
those
we
rights.
just know it's wrong. It's that
Yeah.
inner knowing that we have. We're
Yeah.
all born with it, but some people don't. That's not as valuable as the external things. Their relationships with their friends, their job, their ability to go to the pub, whatever. That's more important to them than integrity, than truth,
Honour.
than faith, and honour, than all those things. And that's the difference. And I actually taught my children this the other day. We did a little lesson. I said to my three older boys, because 6, 8, and 11, the older ones, I said, what's the difference between something that's spiritual and something that's physical? I'm not preaching or anything, but and they said, I don't know. And I said to my 6-year-old, put your hand out. He put his hand out. I went, can I put chocolate in your hand? He goes, yeah. He's giggling, little Ezra. And I said, can I put gold in there? He goes, yep. Can I put silver? Yep. Can I put money? Yep. Can I put courage in there? And he goes, no. And he laughs. Can I put love in there? No. Can I put faith in there? No. Can I put confidence in there? And my 6-year-old understands all these concepts because I've gone through them with him. And I said, but are those things real? And he goes, yes. Now, are the children out there learning those things? And are they learning the value
That's
of
brilliant.
these things?
Actually, can I take this a little bit further on a bit of a tangent, but not really. You mentioned before that you're homeschooling your kids.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the problems in society that we're going through today originates in schools.
100%.
Kids are getting indoctrinated rather than getting taught how to learn. They're just being, learn this, spoon feeding you. This is what you're going to think. This is what you'll learn. But they're not getting taught how to learn on their own.
How to think.
How to think. How to be independent. How to be free thinking. They're not getting taught that. So was it difficult to make that jump to homeschool your kids? How did you do it? How does it even work?
My 11-year-old, he'll be 12 soon. He started in prep, this is well before COVID, and he got taught something that we didn't agree with, and it took the teacher about a minute. The teacher said, my son comes home and he's in prep, he goes, Dad, we come from monkeys? I said, no, we don't come from monkeys. Mm-hmm. You're not an automaton. You're not a monkey fish frog.
Yeah.
And I had this discussion with him. It took me about half an hour to get that into his head that wasn't correct. It would have taken the teacher about a minute, but they didn't. So what I thought was I'm going to lose my little one in here, and I was becoming aware of all the other stuff that was being taught in there. So I removed him, and we started homeschooling him from that point onwards. So that's the whole thing. So I care about, and you think about this, right? People go, your kids are going to miss out on social time. They're going to miss out. And
Is that why you have 5 kids? So that
that's right.
There's always social.
That's right. and people say things like, they're going to have some problems here and there. And I go, you know what? The problems that I'm going to have with my children are nowhere near as significant as the problems that you're probably going to have with your children.
There are play groups and stuff like that.
From
anyway,
going to school, you know. And homeschooling is huge now. Like
it's growing. I'm getting
massive.
a lot of phone calls from people asking about homeschooling, how they do it, and it's something that I'm gonna pick up and run with in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
I've got to do more about homeschooling because we need solutions, right, to what's happening right now. And I think a big answer, a big key to what's going on now is taking ownership of what your kids learn, because there's nothing better for the people that run society, the elites, quote unquote, whatever you want to call them, than you giving away your kids for 8 hours a day, whatever it is, to the school system when they can be indoctrinated in something that you have no control over.
Well, what's going to pay the biggest dividend for like people, those controllers of society? The children. You put
children. Children.
Whatever investment they put in time, resources
and
into
they have
getting
time.
to them.
These people think in decades.
That'll
or in
pay.
lifetimes.
That'll pay the greatest dividends later on, and that's why we can reverse that trend by taking our children out and filling them with, telling them who they are, what they are. This is what truth is. These are the values that are most important, and teach them to connect with that conscience that they've got. I just know that's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
I'm just going to bring us back to reality here.
Yeah.
Because Babette, as much as I love you, has no kids.
Well, I haven't said if I have kids or not.
I'm
We're
assuming
planting some good
from the
seeds
way
in his mind, though.
from the way you're talking, I'm assuming you got no kids. Rukshan has no kids.
You're my kid.
Benji
This
has
crazy
no
guy
kids.
has 5 kids. I've got a couple of my own, and as inspired as I am by that speech, there's no way I'm keeping them home to homeschool. You know what? I sacrifice their brains.
How old are your kids, by the way, Avi? They're a bit older, right? They're not
My kids?
young. They're not in their formative years
so
as such.
so I've got 2 step kids and 2 of my own, and they range from. So we got a 16 and 15-year-old girl and 2 12-year-old boys. Right now, I hear everything you say, and I'm joking around here, but the point is, I think that works for some people. Definitely wouldn't work for me. The kids,
But it doesn't have to be homeschooling. It's just the principles.
But the conversation. Look, I've gotten into heaps of I talk to my kids all. Imagine
exactly.
me. Like, I
That's
talk
what matters.
politics. I talk about issues at an age appropriate level.
Yep.
And I challenge them when they come home. The kids, and they start. I remember a few years ago they were talking about Black Lives Matter, and they were all excited about supporting this thing. And then I go, okay, so you're going to say sorry for what? I go, well, you're half white. You half did it. What? No, but you just got to get on your knees.
That's a good point right there, Avi. That's a very, very good point. You talk to your kids.
Absolutely,
You talk to them.
But
They
that's
come
what I'm saying.
home,
Like, you don't
have a conversation.
I feel like homeschool. That's amazing. Nick is a guy that in many ways, I look up to him. He's through COVID was brave, but also as a dad, I've seen him in his home environment and his wife and his kids. All right, there's one thing that we won't talk about. Security around the kids and random women picking up his kids. But we won't talk about that right now.
that was funny.
don't know
That
what's
was funny.
It was funny.
It was funny.
It's an in-joke.
Yeah.
But I think that to be able to do what he does takes an immense amount of stupidity.
Thanks.
No, like power. I couldn't no way do it. I don't have the patience.
What it comes down to, though, and you may not have the patience, whatever, then that's fine, and many others might not, but it's about taking ownership over your children's education as well.
And having a mighty strong wife. My wife, La Rosa, is
she's legendary.
amazing.
She'd have to be with you.
100%.
I love her. She's you have to have a strong partner.
Let's give her a little bit of a prep up
Yeah.
because she needs it because she does so much in the background.
Mate, she stood by you through hell and back.
Even before all this, when I was a pro fighter and I was
that explains the ears.
cutting weight all the time and being grumpy at home,
Can we talk about that? So when you were a pro fighter, that's what I've never understood. How the pro fighters, when they have the
Cauliflower
jiu-jitsu ears,
Yeah.
doesn't all the weight just sit up there, doesn't it?
Nah, it just goes hard.
Is that hard now?
Yeah, it all goes
Can
hard.
you show the camera so people can see that? Look at that. It's like hectic.
It's you know what it's from?
Are you still training?
Yeah, I still train.
It's from grappling, no? Like smacking it around.
Yeah, it's usually when you're like in a choke or a headlock and you're and someone's holding on and the pressure in your head and it comes out in 3 years.
It's from that. I always assumed it was from the constant
Yeah, there's a bit of that
grabbing
too.
it.
The times this has gone up and really ballooned up was always been when I've been in a choke. in a tight choke, and I just won't.
Is it from training or is it your wife?
She's actually pretty savvy with that stuff too. She's competed as well. She's fought as an amateur. Yeah.
So your wife fought mixed martial arts as well as you?
Yeah, she fought in the cage, yeah.
Fair enough.
How cool is that? And they have 5 kids together, which they homeschool. Who does more of the homeschooling?
Oh,
You
she
or-
does. She's the best.
So you're sitting here telling the world to homeschool, acting like you're dad of the year. It turns out you do nothing.
By the way, you know what?
Props to the woman that puts up
Props-
with him, his
props to the
lies,
woman.
and the 5 kids.
That's why you need a strong husband
Strong
and a
women.
strong wife together, strong
Yeah.
family unit.
Ah, yes,
That is
thank
what
you for
they
saying
hate so
family
much.
unit.
They
I
guess
hate
it's true.
that.
Family is everything.
Family unit, is the foundation of our society. The
100%.
family, the family.
Benji, pull up the share screen.
You know one thing that you guys don't do on your podcast?
What?
Yeah.
You don't answer the questions.
What question did you have?
When people type in
I
questions.
don't know.
Oh,
I'm
getting
looking at
there.
it.
We
We'll
actually
look at
do
it.
get it.
But I wanted to pull up this kid because we're talking about homeschooling.
legend.
This is awesome.
This is a cool story
basic
from
kid,
America.
yeah.
Kid goes to school with a backpack. It's got a flag. What's the flag called? Gadsden
Was it the
flag.
snake one? Don't
Yeah,
tread on me.
don't tread on me
Yeah.
flag. You know, a flag of freedom, symbol of all sorts of things from American history. And then you got this, like, I guess, this woke teacher that sits him down. I don't know if we can play the audio. Let's have a look.
He with his mum, right?
Yes,
His mum's there as well.
Is that
I
audio
think
coming
I'm
through?
here.
Flag
Yeah,
is,
does that
that's
mean-
a historical flag.
So there, the reason that they do not want the flag, the reason we do not want the flag displayed, is due to its origins with
The Revolutionary
slavery and slave trade.
But yeah,
They just make stuff.
you guys can look up this video. Check it out. Just type in the Gadsden flag and it'll come up because that's the news story at the moment. But literally, what's happening is this teacher is lecturing this little kid, telling the parents that he's had this flag and it's got this bad meaning and all this kind of stuff. Complete nonsense. But you see how much the school is involved in this type of thing, where a kid's just displaying something that he likes, whatever. But at the same time, schools are indoctrinating kids.
Well,
and all-
I think the parent
Took a
pulls them
photo.
up. Well, the parent also says, "How about all the other ones? You
Yeah.
know, like you let the rainbow.
How
you
about
let
the BLM flag? How about that
yeah,
one?
BLM.
But the reason I brought that up was because now the schools backed down and allowed him
Yeah.
to come with the flag. So
I love the way the kids just like as they're talking, just like looking at mum, like this is what I got to deal with. You look
Yeah.
at his expression. He knows that they're full of
know.
crap.
Yeah.
Because mum and dad have spent time at home.
Yeah.
Teaching.
But that's the point here is that
Yeah.
there is one way to do it, which is have 5 kids and get your wife to homeschool them. And
If I could afford to put him in a really good school, I don't have the financial capacity.
what's a really good
like this?
school?
There are some good private schools where you
Like
know.
what?
I don't know. There would be some out there. I don't know. I don't homeschool, but I'm sure that there are. I would probably do that.
like because even when I look at Christian schools now,
Christian schools are woke.
they've got all gone woke.
so maybe there's not.
No, I don't
maybe
know,
I'm
man.
wrong.
It's probably getting tough these days.
Yeah.
You'll end up sending him to a Jewish school.
Well, how's this? A friend of mine was.
I reckon the only schools not going woke are like your ultra orthodox Jewish and maybe Muslim schools.
Muslim
Yeah.
schools, yeah.
Probably.
But how's this? So my mate, he actually was like, "Oh, you're crazy for homeschooling." Well, he homeschools now, him and his wife, because and his wife was on the school board and everything. And what did it was his daughter comes home. She's only like 7, I think, and she says, "Oh, Dad, today we learned about gender-based violence." And that was it. Like he went, "That's it. I'm not going to do this.
Jeez.
Gender-based violence."
Mate, the only thing about gender, well, kids shouldn't know anything about gender, but the only thing that they should know, I said this before, about sex is that boys are gross and girls have cooties. That's the extent of your knowledge about the differences
That's the
between gender
natural
or
order,
sex.
isn't it?
It's the
Yeah.
natural order. They shouldn't know any of this stuff. Why can't we just, as a society, just say, you know what, just let kids be kids. Leave kids alone.
No, because they want your kids.
They
And
absolutely
anyone that
want your
says
kids.
no, it's happening by chance. If it was happening by chance, it would sometimes happen in our favour, and it never does.
Never in our favour, no. For a kid to come home and talk about gender at 7 years old is wild. It's crazy. It's wrong. It's so wrong. So wrong. I think what we're doing as a society is where people people that are on the conservative side are not speaking up enough. And we're in a position now where we're allowing these nutters to rob kids of their innocence. That's what's happening. We're allowing it because we keep supporting these people. And for those at home that are watching this right now, by voting for the Liberal Party and the Labor Party and the Greens and all the rest of the establishment mob, you're supporting it. Stop doing it. Protect your kids, for God's sakes. Don't worry about me. Protect your kids. Anyway.
Spoken like a true politician.
politician.
Get out of here.
Had to get the
One
political
thing that
jabs
I
in
am
there.
not is I am not a politician, and I never
I love how
want
angry.
to be
Look
one.
at the veins on his
I
head.
never want to be one. I can't
getting
wait.
riled up.
I can't wait
We're
until
gonna
I leave
gonna
that place.
We're gonna trigger him.
Yeah.
They're
just-
triggering me
they're
right now
just
by
mocking
calling me
you
a
now.
politician. Don't call me a politician.
People,
Can we ask you to calm down?
in the comments, Ralph, people are like, Ralph, take your tie off.
Take my time.
Oh,
Mate,
yes.
I like my tie. Get out of here. It's a good tie.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is that's not his politician. That's his real estate agent.
Hey, real estate's a very, very good business. Get out
I
of here.
understand, man. I
We're
understand.
just listen. You crashed our party tonight, so we're gonna pick on you.
Mate, you can pick on me all you want. All right.
We love
we're a
for the
non-stress
record.
zone.
I've got
there.
your back. I got your back.
Right
mate.
back.
For the viewers out there, we actually love Ralph,
Yeah.
but every once in a while, a bit of tough love. We've got to tell him, take that suit off, get down with the boys, get the tie off,
I've
let's
worn a
have a
suit.
chat. And we might not vote UAP. We might actually enjoy the Liberal Party because
Mate, I've been wearing a suit for so long now that I don't know anything else.
what
I
happened?
don't
Did
know
we
anything.
cut?
No.
What was that publishing?
No, it's all good. I was just changing your camera angle.
He was fixing it up.
Because, you know, Ozzy wasn't on the
I'm
camera
starting to
properly.
get sick and tired.
Benji
of-
switched to the share screen. I got
Hey,
the next,
hey,
I got the
Ralph,
next
do
story.
you just do, you know, because you're always wearing a suit, do you just do your double Windsor and just leave them
Oh,
tied up so you can just put them straight back on?
Mate, it is so hard to get the length right. I just leave them
Yeah,
done.
yeah, leave 'em
I
on,
just
yeah.
kind of, I'll
Stretch 'em
loosen
out,
it,
take 'em off.
and
Yeah.
put them in the cupboard. Yeah, that's what
This is
I
a
usually
riveting
do.
podcast.
Yeah.
Mate, it's too hard. It's too much effort. It's too
All right,
hard.
next story, guys.
Let's
I've got
go.
this one from directly from Rebel News.
Oh, look at that book. Do you see that book they're selling?
This is
book.
Good book.
this is why you need an ad blocker. This story. So this, maybe you can give us some insight into this, Avi. But Aussie Bank
No,
warns.
I didn't write this.
Aussie Bank warns customers mean comments online may get you account frozen or closed. So
Wow.
we've seen this trend now. A lot of the terms and service of many of our major banks. We've seen some of this around the world, but recently in Australia as well. They're getting very sensitive, aren't they?
Well, Nigel Farage got debanked not long ago. In the UK, the
Yeah.
leader of the Brexit movement, he got done. They cancelled his accounts.
I had one
This-
of my accounts shut down as well.
You've had accounts shut down.
You
How
have?
come?
Yeah.
Did they give you a
Tell us
reason,
why.
or-
No, I was told that the bank said they don't want to do business with me anymore, and they shut the account. And I
Yeah.
did, and I only had a little bit of money in there. I didn't get the money back either, but it was
What?
only a very small. It was like this is to see the Jew in him comes out.
I'm going to talk to my family.
Yeah, it was like $50 in there or something.
But still, how can they?
oh,
They can't take your money.
Yeah, but you know,
Still
like
your money, yeah.
I was at that stage dealing with all the legal battles, and I haven't even followed it up.
Bigger things
Yeah.
to worry
What
about.
bank was it?
It was the Westpac Bank.
Oh, that's NAB. So
But
West,
I've heard of happening in all of them across the board.
Yeah.
I don't know of any bank.
this is
that don't
what
really-
is so dangerous about a cashless society. Because
Absolutely,
what happens
absolutely.
in the case that no bank wants to let you bank there, or the government tells freeze their accounts. Here they're saying they're freezing accounts for your behaviour
Mean
online.
comments online.
Guys,
For
this,
me-
this is coming, guys.
Yeah.
This is coming. I mean, I'm not going to name names and I'm not going to do anything like that. But
Why not?
around the halls of Parliament, when I talk to people, there's a consensus that this is going to become the norm one day. And the problem with the guys and girls that are in power today is, I'd like to believe that they're just dumb. I'd like to believe that, but at the very highest level of our government, of our parliament today, we have people in there that envision a future where the government has ultimate control over every aspect of your life. We've got the digital ID legislation coming up. And Minister Gallagher, who's spearheading this, she's the minister responsible, was saying that hopefully by next year they have it implemented and good to go. If a digital ID system comes in, it's a precursor to what could potentially be, in the future, a social credit system. And I keep talking about the social credit system because I generally think that it's the biggest, most dangerous thing affecting all our lives today, more dangerous than a standing army, right? Let's say, a military force invaded our nation tomorrow. everyone in this room would know exactly where to direct their attention, pick up your guns or whatever it's going to be. There's your enemy, go charge forward. You'd know. But if something like a social credit system and the digital ID comes in and it's all integrated together, they can literally cancel you from society and there's nothing that you can do about it. Well, imagine like a Facebook cancellation, but for your life.
Yeah,
and that's it.
That's what's coming in.
But think about it, right? So, people go, well, okay, if they're going to do that, let's set up an alternate system. And then, but the problem is they legislate against your ability to even do that. That you can't be, if they could, they wouldn't let you have any land, you wouldn't let you grow food. It's getting to that point. It's like you have to be a slave. And that's what it is.
You have to be a slave, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example. Yesterday we went to because where I work, my boss and I, we go out and we get lunch, and we went to a place called Freaky Tiki in Rye, and we got a sandwich from there. And they said, oh look, our system's down. Do you have any cash? We do.
Yeah,
I said, I don't know for how long though. And they're like, I know, right? Because they're fully awake over there. And I said, just as well we've still got it, because if your system's down, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
You can't do business now.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to accept the liability for that?
Yeah.
What do you think the government is? No.
No, of course not.
I think that would be deliberate too. We don't like those guys.
But that's the real danger.
Yeah.
Is that they can shut you down from doing business, from
partaking in society.
Yeah, partaking in society, from feeding your kids.
Plausible deniability. Oh, it was just a mistake. It was just a problem
Well,
with the
one
system.
day it won't be a mistake.
Yeah.
In our lifetimes, it will be a deliberate action by the government to shut you down because you're a
agree.
dissenter. I mean, look what they did to you because you dissented during the COVID times, right? They made your life hell.
But no. It's awesome.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. You know what it is? It builds character, makes you strong.
Adversity does make men more interesting,
Resistance.
though.
You go to the gym. You got to lift heavy weights to get strong. Okay,
Yeah.
you don't get strong with the light stuff. You've got to. So the more resistance that you go through, the stronger you become.
Yeah.
But it's about your outlook, because the thought precedes the action. So it's very important that you look at it the right way. Because if you start thinking, "Oh, I'll be overwhelmed,"
So you're supporting the whole agenda.
It's making him stronger.
You think
don't twist my words.
that's what I got from that?
But I think it's been very good, but it's how you look at it. Okay, you can look at it half empty, half full. I look at it like it's 95% full.
Well, I'm looking at it going, I don't like the idea that the government will have ultimate control and power
I
to
agree.
force everybody, because we were as a society, we were so compliant over COVID when they didn't really have any power. Imagine how compliant society is going to be when
this is the thing, right? That happened because the people had no backbone. I'm not talking about everybody. I'm
Do you
talking
think they're
about
gonna
the
have a
majority.
backbone here?
I hope we get a round two. They're talking about potentially this thing happening again, because it will, at least for morally and for the morale of the people, to have another go to. I messed up last time.
But it's not. The problem is, right, with that theory is it's not going to play out the same way. They're not idiots.
No, of course.
They're not idiots. It's going to play out differently, and everybody's going to give themselves the new excuse. Nah, this one last time was bad.
I don't think
last
they all
time was
will.
fake.
I don't think they all will.
I don't know. You're putting a lot of faith in.
Too much faith, my
They voted Dan Andrews back into
That's right.
Listen to me. What I'm saying is, I'm talking about the individual. I'm not talking about the collective. I'm saying those individuals that went, because it's all about truth and error. So the ones that went, I got duped, I got tricked, I will never let that happen again.
Yeah.
There'll be a portion of those who will
There'll be a
man up.
portion.
There'll be
And
more.
you know what? That to me is what it's about.
That's
what matters.
There'll be more, but
There'll
I
be
fear
more.
that there won't be enough to stop
To
this
stop
agenda.
the agenda. I don't think there will be either.
They're all on this live feed now. They're all here.
They're all watching.
With all of this banking stuff, the thing I find is it's like it's all about convenience. Like, convenience is our greatest weakness. A lot of these apps, a lot of these things that we do, I'm guilty of it because it's convenient.
Well,
right?
no resistance.
Well, there's no resistance to it. I mean, everything digitized. We want it to be faster. We want things to happen quickly.
At the end of the day,
so
Rukshan,
we're a part of that. Like, we are a part of that. We have to accept that responsibility.
It would be fine if the people in power were benevolent individuals and didn't want ultimate control over everyone's life, and we had a digital thing, it'd probably be okay. But the problem is that the people that rule things today are not benevolent. They're evil SOBs.
I agree with you.
That's the problem.
I don't think, people go communism this. I don't think it matters what ism it is. If all the people were righteous and good and decent, that would all work.
It's fine.
It's always about, obviously.
But that's not human nature, though.
No, they
Human
always,
nature is not that.
They're always seeking those positions.
But with all of this, that's why I think, like what you mentioned and all of this, I think that's why it's important to, like, let's say the founding documents or protecting our basic rights and though it always comes back to that, because I think that is what will shield us in many ways.
But they just ignore that. I mean,
they do ignore it, but I think there has to be that we have to depend on
we've got
things
a
like
human
this as
rights
well.
charter in Victoria.
I know. I know. I know.
And they
this,
never did an override for
Yeah.
it. The act itself says that the way they override that act is by a declaration in Parliament. That never happened. Never happened.
I know.
And then so the fact that never happened, but they just went, well, you don't have any. You know, I mean, and even when they brought in the Omnibus Act, which was the act that they brought in for the pandemic to amend other acts, it even said in there it applies to every other act except for the Victorian Constitution and the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities. So they didn't amend anything from that act, yet they said all your human rights, you don't have them.
But without that, I feel like we have almost nothing. Without these, just even the hope in those kind of things. Without,
it definitely helps to have some paper
helps,
to go,
right?
hey, you guys said this.
Yeah.
Can you keep your word?
Yeah,
A big issue
that's
as well,
kind of all we
guys.
have.
This is a big issue, is that people at home that are watching this right now are not involved enough in the political process. They're not involved because society is ultimately going to be it's ultimately going to be run by 1 to 5% of individuals, because most people are followers, right? So the people that are watching this now, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. You are more powerful than what you think you are. You have to get more involved in the political process. Watching Avi and Rukshan every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Great show.
7 to 7:20.
7:20 after Avi finishes having his
roughly
dinner.
that time. It is not enough. Liking posts on Facebook, it's not enough. You're gonna have to do 10 times what you're doing right now if you want to change this country, and you can change the country. Because like I said, 1% to 5% of people, that's who makes the decisions, and everyone else, 95% of people are followers.
All right.
So make them follow you.
No,
You're
well,
always being so inspiring.
I'm going to show you someone that's changing and challenging the banks. Benji, if you switch to the share screen. So this is
the Lebo.
the John
I love this
John
guy.
Bernardi.
This is one way of fighting
He
back
was funny
against the
during
banks.
COVID.
Because one of the things with the banks is now these days, if you go to a bank and you want to withdraw your own money, these people behind the teller will ask you, why are you withdrawing?
But I think in their defence, I think that's what they've implemented from the Royal Commission, if I'm not wrong. I don't think it's the banks that have made it up. The fact that they're all doing it is because they've been told from the government that they've got to do this thing.
Yeah.
They've got to tick a box. That's why he's
I was keeping it that surface level on that, but let's just watch his video and how he deals with this.
When you withdraw cash in Australia, the banks want to know why, so let's go tell them the truth. Around 6,000. What is it for? My missus thinks I cheated on her last week. She's doing my f***ing head in, so I need to give her some cash and a necklace. She doesn't like flowers, she just likes designer handbags and shit.
Sorry, do you?
No worries. I don't know why it's important for the bank to know, it's money.
I have to ask.
I've got to go to a beauty salon to bleach my arsehole.
Yeah, there we go.
It was a bleaching package, and yeah, they said you can make it up to 3 shades lighter. Drugs,
Well,
the devil's lettuce, you would know.
that's what you want me to put, John Bernard?
I don't deal it personally, I just connect people together.
Whatever you do, it's
Okay.
your business.
What's the money for?
Yeah.
Does it matter?
We need to ask customer why.
I need it for steroids. Summer's coming up, Stereosonic festivals. I need a shred for summer. I mean, if you must know, I'm transitioning to be a woman, so I have to pay for the surgery. It's an expensive surgery. It's not covered on the Medicare. When you withdraw cash in Australia, the banks want to know why.
So look, that's one way of fighting back maybe against
It's
these banks.
brilliant.
Intrusion.
It gains traction. He's good.
Yeah, no, it's very good. That was quite
Well, it
funny.
breaks the narrative down too, you know, or focuses on the narrative there.
Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes through comedy, these kind of things
Yeah.
to show how society has become, it makes a difference, right? So I think that's
No, I
great.
like that. That's a good little way that he has used to bring attention to probably a lot of people that didn't think about this, to this issue. So good on him for doing that, and I hope he does a lot more videos. You know, we need people to do things like that because the ultimate disinfectant is the truth, and also bring awareness to things, because a lot of people don't have awareness of what's going on because they're so focused on living their lives and going to work and raising their kids and paying the bills, and paying
Homeschooling
the
some of
mortgage.
them.
The Roman circus, mate, just being
Yeah.
busy doing things that aren't
Yeah.
really that important, and that's the problem. You know,
Yeah,
people.
it is a problem. It is a problem.
So I've got
Over time.
one more topic.
And let's bring in some comments before we shut
yeah,
down.
exactly. I've got one more topic, and this is around Qantas. So recently, Qantas we've had in our country, Qatar Airways.
Qantas.
Oh my God.
Qantas.
Why did you call it
Can you tell us a little
Qantas?
bit about what's happening with Qantas and Qatar Airways?
Well, I'm not sitting in the Prime Minister's office, so I don't know, what kind of conversations he's having in the privacy of his office. But from the outside looking in, it just looks like he's got a very cosy relationship with the chairman of Qantas, and the chairman of Qantas has even given his son Chairman's Lounge membership, which is usually reserved for parliamentarians and
So senators-
CEOs. and
senators-
things like this.
Do you have one?
Senator,
I do have a chairman's
senators.
lounge.
I think senators get this, don't they? Senators.
We do get it, yes.
Yeah.
So for us who don't know, there's a special lounge at the major airports usually where CEOs and things like this, people who fly a whole bunch, and members of parliament, etc.
Important people.
Not plebs like us.
It's just a normal lounge. But it's
in their
private, that's all.
defense, I don't mind politicians having access to certain things to get them to their job quicker, to meet people and do all this
Yeah.
stuff. Like the CEOs of major companies and stuff, they fly in private jets. They have all this. Our leaders need to be able to be fresh when they meet these type
Exactly,
of people.
yeah.
I get that whole point. I understand that, but it's just this kind of layer of kind of nepotism where the children are now getting access to it.
The Prime Minister's son gets into
And
we're not asking
we
him
have Mark Dreyfus, the defense minister, Labour defense minister. He's apparently, he catches a flight to the airport in Melbourne, and then he jumps on a military jet to Avalon because it's closer for him to get to Geelong. So there's a lot of this kind of thing happening now in our politics. And this thing with Qantas was the fact that Qatar Airways was going to fly routes within Australia, bringing down the price of flights.
They say up to 40%.
Up to 40%.
I've seen up to 50%.
Up to
even.
40,
Wow, that
50%.
was on sale.
The cost of travel in our country, whether it's internally or outside, whatever, who cares, was going to come down for people. And at the end of the day, a 40% saving is a massive thing.
I can't even travel. I can't leave the state because of my air
Oh,
conditioning.
you still can't
Oh,
leave.
well, yeah.
Oh,
You wouldn't
Doesn't
get
affect
benefits
me.
from that. He doesn't need to
So
support
you
it.
support blocking Qatar?
But my point is, the government said it's not in our national interest to have this. Like, for what? You know what I mean? Like, who are they
Having
protect?
Qatar?
No, like just having these savings for people. Like, it sounds like that. Is that the read that you're getting
Look,
from
it's
this?
the read that I'm getting. I mean, what we should be looking to do is we should be looking to increase competition. Competition is always a good thing because the people that benefit from competition, like you said, is the consumer. So the more competition, the better. That's what I would have thought. And the reasons that they've kept a competitor out of the country, I wasn't there in the room. I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm an advocate for more competition in the market.
And I have to say, I misquoted my the defense minister's name. It's Richard Miles. I blamed some Mark.
What'd you
Mark,
call?
I called him Mark Dreyfus. I blamed some other guy, but he probably takes the military jet as well. Who knows? Look,
You're always picking on the Jews. I think Dreyfus is a Jew. isn't he?
Qantas as well. They have they're having some in the hot seat as well because they have these unclaimed credits. But I think they're going to give them back now. I'm hearing because
The
they had
Aussie Cossack is sending me
Huh?
messages, fact checking you.
what's he saying?
He says the defense minister name is Richard Miles, not Mark Dreyfus.
I mean, he's got the direct intel from the Russian
Dreyfus
embassy.
is the
I'm
Attorney
getting my
General.
intel for the
So
show
he-
from the
Avi
Russian embassy.
Kozak for joining in from the Russian embassy.
Привет, хорошо. Message taken.
Speaking of dissidents.
Speaking.
Anyway, let's forget about Qantas.
Speaking of flights.
all sorts of issues with Qantas. Now, I'm going to go read some comments. Just
Before you
give me-
do that, can you just give a shout out to my neighbours? They'll be so grateful.
Oh, come
because
on.
they're the biggest
Yes,
fans.
neighbours' names.
Yep. Pawan and Harshani.
Pawan and Harshni. Shout out from Rukshan.
Can you guys comment in the comments?
Bring Nick Patterson more Sri Lankan curry.
Oh,
Yes.
Sri Lankan
That's what he
curry.
told me.
Do you like
That's
Sri
what he
Lankan
told me.
I
curry?
love it.
He's got
It's so
neighbours.
good.
They must be giving you Sri Lankan
What about
curry.
the
If
chicken?
they haven't, they
They
should.
brought me cake, birthday cake. They had
Birthday
they
cake,
brought me some-
ribbon cake, maybe.
Is the chicken that Rukshan and that mate? Is that the Sri Lankan curry?
That's like a Sri Lankan version of the chicken curry. Yeah, it's pretty good.
What's it called?
I don't know. I
thought
know,
that's the Sri
know it as-
Lankan
we
chicken.
just know it as chicken. If your mum,
It's just normal chicken.
if your
Yeah,
mum's
yeah.
making chicken for you and you're a Sri Lankan, it comes as Sri Lankan curry
Oh,
style.
well, I'll hit them up.
You hit him up. We'll
Yeah.
we'll all come.
Yeah, all right. Let's do it.
We'll go to the house.
I'll organise it.
Let's do
Organise a
questions
dinner.
from the-
I know they
from
don't
the
like
people.
me, but that doesn't matter. I come with Rukshan everywhere.
Aussie Cossacks messaged
He's
me
going
as
off
well.
his head.
He's Richard Miles.
He's sending me code messages now. No, I will not shout out to Zelensky. Idiots.
Next minute, ASIO is investigating all of us.
Yeah, that's right.
This is going to happen.
All right, let me just
I'm
look
sure
up
they
some.
already spy on all my devices already, which is fine, guys. I don't mind if you do go for it.
Oh, yeah,
No,
you're
no,
saying
I
they're
don't-
hearing
You
our
just
conversations.
consented now.
Mate, they already do. They don't need
course
your
they do.
consent.
I know,
They don't need
I
your
know.
consent. They're all over it. As long as the CCP's not watching my stuff, I don't mind if our boys do.
Do you have TikTok?
I do not have TikTok, no.
The federal parliamentarians are not allowed to have TikTok, is that correct? Or
We're
no?
not on our parliamentary devices.
Not
no.
on your parliamentary
And
device.
I don't have it on any of my devices.
I use TikTok, but only because to
Oh,
put, my,
you
to,
investigate
put my,
inside.
to put my political videos in
If
there. I
you
don't
still
do
have TikTok, then you're not doing your job properly.
No, they
because
deleted
They
your
ban
TikTok.
every, they ban me like.
Speaking of TikTok, right? That is the biggest social contagion going around right now. I'll tell you why. TikTok in China shows kids engineering, mathematics, do well in
I've
school.
seen this, but is
sport
it
and
actually-
prowess.
do we know that?
You
Is
watch
it really
TikTok
true?
here, it's all just
Look,
people shaking their
You know,
ass.
I think in China...
And
they-
degeneracy.
They're not showing kids that in China. Kids in China aren't doing that stuff to begin with.
Yeah,
they're actually
that's-
going to school studying and doing these things.
You know-
I
you
don't
know
think
what?
they're doing the
Have you been in
degenerate
mainland
stuff.
China?
No.
I spent a month there. It's
But I-
very, very different.
Yeah, but I think that it is culturally so different. I think they put
So
the
different.
focus in education.
There was a survey done not long ago. I don't remember what survey it was, but I remember reading it. And the Chinese kids, overwhelmingly, when they were asked what they wanted to do when they were older, they said astronaut and I think engineering and astronaut. And when they asked Western kids, what do you want to do when you're older? They said YouTuber.
Yeah.
That was different.
Gangster.
Yeah.
But
Mate,
is
the
that
future,
that's
what
because
does
of
that
the
mean for our
focus
future as a people?
of the
That's it.
education system.
That's the attack on the West.
Yeah.
That's it.
The West
Because
is getting smashed.
If you want to get, if you're these world, they live in a cave and you go, and you're like that, right? The stereotypical world psychopath that wants to rule the world. You've got all these countries that have a lower standard, okay, less rights, less freedom. They're looking at these other Western countries going, we want to be like that. That's inspiring them. But now they're not looking at us because they go, we don't want to that woke crap.
No.
We don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. They're destroying the West.
The West is definitely
So that
civilized
there's
at
nothing
this
to aspire for
Yeah.
them to aspire to.
It goes back to your question before, and I think that 100% our adversaries are, whether they're the ones manipulating the system to cause this, or they're just taking the opportunity and taking advantage of us. Either way, the outcome's going to be the same because, yes, we are going to dominate and protect our. Just looking at something as simple as the military. Yes, if we make sure that we have a quota base of women in all the thing, and we have transgender rights within the military, and we're going to go marching in, I guess, like a gay march, pride march onto our enemies. Have you seen what they're doing in the Russian and Chinese armies?
It's very different.
Do you see armies that are actually preparing for war, as opposed to the American army that isn't that a dude in a dress that's like
Yeah,
the
yeah, that
spokes
is, yeah.
Yep.
man, women. I can't even keep up. I'm actually trying not to be.
Well, you got to be careful because fact checkers,
Yeah, I'm actually so confused because I don't remember which way it goes on this.
The
on this.
military is the one place where there should be absolutely no wokeness whatsoever, because the job of the military is to defend the nation abroad, which is essentially killing
people.
kill the enemy, which is what it is.
I'm
You
going
have
to kill
the
you
enemy.
nicely. Stop
Yeah,
it.
you
But the
can't have any
West,
work ideology
the
there.
West is depending
Stop
on
it.
their technological superiority at the moment, and that's not always going to last.
No.
In my opinion, like they're depending on
Look at China.
robots and drones and all this kind of digital warfare that they're doing. They're depending on that. They don't think they need the
Boots on the ground.
for the type of warfare they're thinking of.
But
But
I mean-
one day, if something comes to your shores, if there is an invasion one day in these countries, right now as they are, we would potentially
Yeah,
struggle.
but I think the
without that
mentality
superiority.
also matters. Like if
100%
you've got
it does.
if you've got a weak population and a weak military command, where it's like, stop or I'll shoot. You stop. I'm serious. Like, what do you think is going to happen when an
Well,
actual army of 1 billion come running?
The
marching
enemy's
towards-
going to be filled with confidence to go, yeah, let's kill these
Let's
guys.
dance.
But I think the
Don't misgender me, thank you. Kill us girls.
but very hard to be serious after that. But anyway,
You do that too well, Harvey.
but the point is, we're focusing on one aspect of it, which
There's a
is the
photo of
military.
Avi in a dress.
Oh, for sure. Of
But
course
that's
there
only
is.
one thing. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, if you look at like Hong Kong, for instance, as opposed to China, as being, Hong Kong now a part of China, but they had that 99 years, Benji? 99 years?
The least.
It was, look at the difference in the standard living. I've been to both. I've seen the difference. So there is an obvious difference. And people in Hong Kong know the difference as well. So the rest of the world sees these other places where there's rights and freedoms, and they go, we want to be like that. That, I believe, is fundamentally the reason why there's such a big attack on the West. They don't want us to have that, and they don't want any of the...
They don't
the
want a beacon of hope for anyone else.
No, they don't want any other
extinguish
nation
that light.
aspiring to be like the West.
They don't want to. Yeah, I get
Does
you.
Senator Babette, this is what the Cossack does. He like every good Russian agent, he sneaks his way into people's devices to question those in power. Does Senator Babette approve Saipak pizza box drones from Melbourne attacking Russian cities this week? What does he
So
even...
I'll give a.
Do
Bit
you
of,
know-
I
what he's
got a
talking
little bit of background. There was an attack on an airport, I believe, in Russia, or a border town airport type thing, and the drone was actually manufactured here in Australia. So we are sending arms and weapons to the Ukraine, and now we're seeing that some of these kind of weapons, in this instance, a drone, is actually used in this, I guess, effective attack on this thing. Aussie Cossack might correct me, but
he can't correct anyone.
so what we're seeing now is really, I mean, technically the West is involved in this kind of proxy
It's
war.
been
It's been
involved
for a
in
long
the
time,
proxy war.
but
Massive
we are
proxy
involved
war.
in this war. It's a war for all other intensive
Where do
purposes.
you
where we're
stand on
involved.
this, Senator?
Where do I stand on the war? I've got to be very careful about what I say here, but
Why?
because for reasons that you
You're on the
guys probably
opposition
know.
podcast. You can
All
be...
right, so my thoughts on the war in the Ukraine is that we should stay the heck out of it. We should stay out of it. We have enough problems here at home to deal with, and we don't need to be pushing the Russians any closer to the Chinese. We don't need to be doing that, which is what we're doing if we keep supporting the offensive that's happening over there. So, pull out of the Ukraine, have a neutral position on it. They need to sort out their own affairs. We don't need to be sending money or eventually, if this thing heats up any more, men and women over there. And we just need to stay out of it. We need to stay out of that war.
The drones, were they supplied by the government?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Richard Miles that. He'd probably know. But
Yeah, they're this kind of innovative drone. I think someone's
I've got
written
no
here,
idea.
the Aussie flat pack cardboard drones are kind of cool tech. I'm not a fan of us being involved, but yeah, the technology's cool. I mean, we have this type of innovation in our country. We do have, I'm sure, similar to Israel, a very kind of advanced
We're
weapon.
always pointing at the Jews.
Not as advanced as Israel in many ways,
Not
but
as
we do have a weapon
effective.
industry. Yeah, these kind of niche products that we're making now. I've got more questions here. So someone asked me this question, but maybe Ralph, you can help me tackle this one as well. I'm sure you have an answer to it. Question, Rukshan. Is it better to vote for independent Conservatives, or is it safer to vote Liberal to make sure Labor and Greens don't hold on to power? My take on this is, we have to be smart about the way we vote. Sometimes, especially for the upper houses, the Senates and so on, where it's available in your state or federally, you can have these more minor parties or independent style things happening in there and then hold the balance of power in that chamber. For the lower house, I think it's very hard for smaller parties to get into, and you really have to be smart about where your votes go in those instances and really kind of keep an eye on those things. So I think we have to be smart as a population.
Yeah.
I really think it's important to kind of have a check on power in the Senate, at least, where it's available in federally and at state level.
Don't vote for Liberal Party. No, absolutely not. Don't be stupid. I'll tell you why. Because the Liberal Party and the Labor Party are exactly the same. There is an illusion of difference. There is an illusion of choice. On matters of significance, not matters that are small, localised, within Australia, little things, but true global significance. They are exactly the same. I'll give you an example, right? Example, The Voice, right? Both the Labor Party and the Liberal Party both support The Voice, except the Labor Party says put it in the Constitution, but the Liberal Party says legislate it instead. Same thing, more or less. Net zero. The Liberal Party says we also want to hit net zero, but we want to do it in a different way using different technologies, but we want to hit it. The Labor Party, they also want to adopt the net zero mentality, which we all know about already. 2 examples right there of how they're exactly the same. Another one, wait.
Yeah.
One more. Digital ID. They both support digital ID. They both do. They're both on board. That's just one more. The Miss Disinfo Bill. The Miss Disinfo Bill originated under the Liberal Party when Scott Morrison was in charge. They couldn't get it up at the time for whatever reason. They didn't get it up, but the idea started there. And now the Labor Party is going to finish off what the Liberal Party started. 4 examples right now off the top of my head, right now in the last couple of minutes, as to how they're both the same. Don't vote for these people. They are establishment parties. They're exactly the same.
Yep. Yeah, I was just going to say, when not the last state election, the one prior, just prior to that, I helped 2 of my friends start the Aussie Battler Party. And I ran a bunch of candidates, just paper candidates, out of my gym to help get a preference vote, to help our guys get up. We had a preference deal, organised with the Liberal Party. I don't know if it's about a week prior to that. It has to be locked in, the preferences, and that's it. The last day that everything has to be locked in for the preferences, and we had this agreement prior to, for weeks. They pulled the pin on the last day, and then so my mate rings me, Stu. He goes, "Nick, what's happened?" Because I was in the Liberal Party at the time, so I was sort of doing them secretly, helping these guys. But anyway, he says, "Nick, the Liberal Party's just pulled the pin on our preferences. Now I'm forced to preference Labor. I've got no other options, right?" Well, I found out at another political event that I was speaking at, I raised this issue because there was some members of Parliament there from the Liberal Party, and I spoke to this other woman. She taps me on the shoulder. She says, I had the same thing happen to me. She said the Shooters and Fishers had the same thing happen to her. Another independent candidate had the same thing happen to them on the same day. So on the day, the last day, the Liberal parties agreed to do a preference deal with all these different minor parties and independents, and then on the last day, pull the pin. Now, why would you do that? There's no logical reason for it. And every time I asked within the Liberal Party, I'd ask members of Parliament, they would just go, "That's a very good question." Yeah, and then they would start talking about, anything other than the actual issue. So it was obviously by design.
Yeah.
Right. So that's when I knew that, they're both the same party.
Yeah, I mean, these things.
They deliberately
don't
through the
surprise me.
election. That was two state elections ago.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And many people are commenting. I see this comment a lot. 2 wings of the same bird. I think a lot of people kind of see this kind of uni party that we have, where it's not really too.
I wasn't smart enough to work that out. I had to go into the party for 4 years before I worked that out.
I mean, we know it, but do the normies know it?
No, I think
That's
people
the
kind
thing.
of pick up on it, but the more they speak, we hear about it, right? And to wrap up, guys, I wanted to get your thoughts, Nick, on, because I've asked you this before, Senator Babbitt, but Nick, on the Voice to Parliament. So we've got a date set now, October 14th, which is when the referendum will be held, and we're seeing some disparities between how this is happening in our country. So when I say disparities, when I walk around here in the suburbs of Melbourne, you'll see often on windows "Vote Yes" signs. I think you'd have to be pretty brave soul as an Australian in a Melbourne, especially, to put a "Vote No" sign on your window. And we saw recently in South Australia someone walk into an office and smash it up, a Liberal office of some sort. So there is this kind of divisiveness creeping in as well, and we're seeing the odds. So we have about $100 million. That is the war chest of the Yes side. That's how much they have. Yeah. And I heard recently that even in a federal election, the government might spend $20-30 million, right? But they have $100 million up their sleeve, whereas the No camp have around $10 million, right? So this is almost
There's
like
a conflict.
There's a David and Goliath style battle happening, and you have all these big corporations, these oil companies, Woolworths, whoever else on the Yes side. So there's a massive battle happening here on this particular vote. How do you think Australians are going to respond to this? Because, these are companies sometimes, these mining companies, for instance, now who are, Rio Tinto, whatever, bandwagoning behind the Voice, they normally treat the public like crap. How do you think Australians are going to respond to all of these things which are happening?
I'm
'Cause
hopeful.
don't we fight for the underdog in this country?
I hope that we still have that spirit within us and hasn't been completely diminished. And I hope that people have learnt their lesson from our previous sad experience in this state and in this country. That, you know what, the government doesn't have our best interest. They don't care about us, and anything that they put up, we go against it. And let's just hope that that's the case. And I think there have been quite a few vocal voices against it too, which has been good to see that, even from within the political spectrum as well. But I think that it could go either way. I don't really know. I'm hopeful, and I'm always one of those guys I try to look on the positive. I'm very hopeful. That's all I can really say on the issue.
No, fair enough. And Senator Babette, last word for you on the Voice. So we've got the date set.
Yeah, we've got the date set. And
what's the UAP doing?
Hopefully on the night for the Voice, we can all get together and we can, do a little bit of a show. The UAP is obviously not supporting the Voice. We're not going to support division in our nation. We're not going to support dividing our nation by the colour of skin. It was Martin Luther King who said, judging the content of character, not on the colour of skin. So we think that sounds great to us. Let's do that. We spent so long getting rid of, racial barriers in our country, and now we're going to put them right back in. Ridiculous, right? At the end of the day, you know what we are? We're all green and gold. That's your colour. You're all green and gold. Too bad at the end. I think adding another level of bureaucracy in our government's not a good thing. There's too much bureaucracy already. We should be cutting green and red tape in our bureaucracy, get rid of all of it. And just on that basis right there, I think we should all, as a people, say no to the Voice, because we know what's going to happen. The Voice is going to be hijacked by woke, lefty activists. They're probably not even going to be Aboriginal. There's going to be way too much milk in their coffee. People that live, in the inner city of Melbourne and things like that. They're the ones that are going to end up controlling this, whatever this body looks like. And at the end of the day, it's not going to be the parliament that decides what the Voice look like. It's going to be the courts. The courts are going to decide when they put it into the constitution. And we all know that as far as I can tell, in my opinion, our courts are woke as hell. So let's just let's not even go there in the first place. Let's just reject it right here and put an end to it right now. I mean, the Aboriginal industry is worth billions of dollars a year, and that's only going to go up from this. And that's what it is. It's an industry. It's something that people make money from. Let's just get down to it. So I say no to the Voice, and that's all there is about.
I'm voting yes.
Well, that's not.
I'm voting yes because I think they deserve one vote.
One vote, yeah.
They need a vote. They need help.
You think it's that bad?
Well,
they're saying now that things are looking a bit more positive now in some of the states.
You know what, guys? This is how you help Aboriginal people. Everyone wants to help disadvantaged people, but how you help people is you make sure they have an education. First and foremost, education takes you out of poverty. Then what you do is you eliminate bureaucracy, red and green tape, like I keep talking about.
It's not a state education, not a state-sponsored one.
And education.
Is your homeschool open to take a few kids from Alice Springs?
Yeah, sure.
Another
then you give
5 W school.
You give people opportunity.
I hear that.
You help them help themselves. That's how you help people. You don't help people by being bloody racist. You don't help. And that's what it is. It's freaking racist. I don't care what these woke activists want to say. If you divide a country by the colour of skin, that's apartheid, brother. That's what that is. No, thank you.
Well, I did say interestingly the other day on Twitter that I didn't think in my lifetime in Australia that I would get an opportunity to fight against racism. So, in my opinion, racism is on the ballot when it comes to the October 14th referendum. And I will be voting no, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm not afraid to say that. And I think many other Australians, need not to be afraid because at the end of the day, we are talking about being united as a country and dealing with our problems as a country, whether we're, immigrants, whether we're settlers, whether we're indigenous, whatever it is. I think we're much more better off united. So that's one of the reasons that I'm voting no. And like I said, I never thought I would get a chance in my lifetime in modern Australia in 2023 to vote against something so drastic like this, where you're voting essentially to whether you want to be one people or separate people. And the government is telling you that they can only provide outcomes for people in your society based on if we have this division in society. Otherwise, they can't help you. it's complete and utter
No,
nonsense,
it's
in my
more
opinion.
bureaucracy. You know, at the end of the day, everyone's got a voice, right? It's called an election. It's going to happen in a few years. There's your voice right there. There's your election.
There you go. And Avi, any last thoughts for you?
No, but next week is going to be an interesting one. I'm half asleep today. I think I'm not feeling the best.
Yeah, that curry just.
Curry.
brother.
See, there you go. That's the evidence. Now you guys
You
know
just
why
outed
we were
me.
late, because Avi was eating a massive was it Indian curry. Where was the curry
Sorry, Rhonda. I'll eat
from? Where was the
you
curry
put it in
from?
the fridge.
Was it good?
Nah, it was pretty bad.
Was it a butter chicken or Rogan Josh?
I don't know, but that's not why I feel sick. I haven't been feeling great, and then I think because we've been traveling, and it just hit me. Yeah. We were doing city. How did you find the Melbourne event the other night?
It was fun.
It was good, wasn't it?
Yep, I enjoyed it.
Oh, I thought it was my wife, but it's a Russian Cossack. I didn't know what was scarier. I thought I was getting in trouble for eating. Now he's just telling me. Anyways, you had fun there?
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed it.
You spoke nicely. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We'll put up your whole speech, actually. We'll put up all those speeches, especially, did you see Rukshan? Oh, my God. In Auckland, did you see that? I put up a little bit of it today.
Yeah.
Where did you put it up?
Oh, bro. Oh, I'm putting it everywhere tomorrow. I'm going to cross-post it with you tomorrow.
I got.
Mine was completely unscripted. His probably was too.
He cried.
I've done
That's the more they're the most meaningful.
three unscripted speeches I've done
good
over
on
this
you,
guy.
mate.
Right?
He cried.
And,
he cried. And then instead of being like...
I didn't cry.
What?
I didn't cry.
Benji, did he cry?
No,
Oh,
so Benji
what,
knows,
like-
yeah.
Croaky. He
I
was
got
about
a
it.
bit croaky talking about independent journalism, citizen journalism.
No,
a
talking
topic
about me.
that I love.
He was talking about me,
that I
and he
love.
was basically on the verge of crying. We'll let the comments decide. It was kind of cute. Yeah, it was cute.
But
then I gave
you're-
him shit all day for it.
You're continuing this book tour, aren't you?
Yeah. So
there's more?
next week I'm in
This
Israel.
guy. Oh, Israel. That's cool.
We're taking the book to the Holy Land. No, we're there. There's a Rebel tour happening, and then in the middle of the tour, so on Wednesday night we're doing a book signing event in Tel Aviv, and I didn't realize how many people must follow me there because we already got. I think this morning they said overnight we got 50 people signed up to it. I'm like, I did not think I'd have, and that's without my family. That's without my family. I've got all my cousins are going to come. They can't read English, so that's going to be fun.
So
The book was very basic, though. So right.
So maybe they'll get it
Have you got? You've got to do an Israeli copy.
in Hebrew.
Yeah, in Hebrew.
Yeah, no.
No, okay.
The market's too
Hey,
small. No, maybe one of my cousins
Avi,
can.
how long are you guys there for? How many weeks?
A week. So we're there for a week. So next week, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be on at the same time. At this point, I think we're going to be in Tiberias. I don't know. I think that's how you say it in English. I just know how to say it in Hebrew. But so I'll hopefully log in. But you're going to hold the fort down. You're going to run the episode next week, right?
Yeah, we're gonna give it a shot, guys. So maybe Senator Babette, you might have to come and co-host with me if
Thursday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll come straight from the airport.
Come straight from the
Next-
airport.
Next
Friday.
week I'm going to Canberra.
Next Friday, is there a disinformation event? Isn't there? Are you speaking at that event?
I will be speaking at that event. Yeah, I'll say a few words.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's gonna be
so can you tell us a little bit about this event that's happening on Friday?
Yeah,
Oh, I
it is.
didn't
I
know.
did hear something
well,
about
I
this.
don't know. Maybe do you want to?
I don't know much about it. All I know is
Okay.
that someone said, "Can you speak?" I said, "Yes, I can."
Yeah.
There's a flyer going around somewhere. I'll put it on my social media.
And look,
Okay.
props to Senator Babbitt. He's a man of
He's
the people.
always
He
there.
goes,
He's
he
always
goes
in
to
it.
these
I'm always
things. He
doing
speaks.
something.
I saw him at the Monash City Council. I've seen him at all sorts
He
of
goes
things
to everything.
speaking. He goes
No, I got
everywhere.
everything.
He's
I
on the
got
opposition podcast.
Mate,
So
I-
Friday, the 8th of September, Polish House. I think
Polish
it's-
House. Yeah.
Yeah, Polish House in
yeah.
in
Cranbourne?
Roval.
Roval, yeah.
Oh, Roval. It is Roval.
Yeah.
And
So-
this is an information night. Is it on the misinformation
It's
bill?
it's in an
the
info
whole
night on
thing's
the
fake
misinfo
news.
bill.
Hmm.
So
If
I'll be there.
RMIT could do it in reality, they'll shut down the Polish house.
They would, but you can't shut down the Polish
Nah,
House.
no one's shutting down the
Can't mess
Polish.
with the Polish.
That's right. That's true.
Polish don't play that game.
No, they
But
don't.
They've been through adversity. They're not playing our games.
So next week, 7 o'clock, you will have a show on.
We will have a show.
I'll try call in.
yeah, I'll co-host with Senator Babette if he's down for it,
I-
and you can dial
So
in.
what's happening is next Thursday I'm in Canberra. I wrap up around 5 o'clock in Canberra.
Don't worry
No
about
one knows
Canberra.
your
I'll
life
come
story.
straight out.
We're not interested in your life story. We just want to know that you're going to run a good,
I'll be here.
effective show.
Talk to the defense minister. Come get a helicopter.
Come on
from
one
the-
of those drones.
Yeah,
Come on one of those
This is,
Aussie drones and they can
private
drop you.
Well, thanks, guys. I hope you've enjoyed our show today. Thank you for participating in the comments. I see a lot of you are talking amongst yourselves, and it's really great to see. This was episode 12.
12 and
episodes.
thank you, Nick, for joining us tonight, and thank you, Babette, for crashing.
Mate, I'm always happy to crash.
Uninvited, as you're always invited to be uninvited.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
God
That's
bless
right.
you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Maga.
Have a good
Nick,
night, guys.
like that.
I did like that.
Maga.
Actually, before we go, do you have what do you think of Trump's mugshot?
I think it belongs on every single poster, every single mug, every single T-shirt.
If you were
From
really
the
a man of the
outset to
people,
end
you'd
time.
get it
I actually
tattooed.
bought-
Yeah,
I
get a
actually
tattoo.
bought, let's
You-
not go that far.
Yeah.
Come
I
on,
bought some of the merch as well.
You
So
bought
that's
some of
going to
the
make
merch.
an appearance in my Parliament House office
Yeah.
in the next few weeks. And I'm sure they're going to love
It's
that
a cool
one.
photo.
But,
Like I want one of those Fulton County like
you know what?
mugshots.
I
Didn't
often
we
get
end the
accused,
podcast, right?
No, we haven't ended
How
it.
does Trump hijack everything, including our podcast?
I often
Stolen
get asked
podcast.
why do I care about Trump so much? I care about Trump so much because I care about Australia. That's why I care about Trump so much.
It's the idea of it, isn't
Well,
it?
it's not just that, but a weak America means, hey, guess what?
yeah.
Weak Australia. Did you think about that? If we don't have a strong leader in the White House on Pennsylvania
What are you
Avenue,
saying about
we don't have
Biden?
a strong Australia. Biden is a geriatric who eats ice cream and sniffs children, and he belongs in a nursing home. That's where he belongs. Mr. Biden, step down.
And there you go, guys. So
You
next
can't step
week,
down.
if,
That is so hard.
if Senator Babette's on next week, we might do a bit of a chat about what's happening in America and Trump. I think it's a topic of passion for him. All right, guys. See you guys all next time.
See you later.
Have a good night.